We turned around and we tried to find it again, and we're like, where did it go? Anytime it would happen, we would end up having a lot of paranormal activities, and we did find some weird stuff in our recordings. We did an EVP session and kind of did like a little experiment. We would try to roll a ball and see if anything could roll it back. While we were doing that, like there was something hitting the floor, a series of blood-curdling screams. It was a woman screaming, but that wasn't even the craziest thing that happened. Welcome back to Paranormally Correct. I'm your host, Sarah, as always. And before we get started today, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe and stick around for more spooky content. So as most of you know, probably by now, I used to be a ghost hunter. I ghost hunted with quite a few different teams and a lot of different people. And it was always fun and exciting, and sometimes it was frustrating, and sometimes it was scary. But one thing was for sure, no matter where it was going to be, whether it was a residential or a commercial place, or maybe an abandoned place, or whatever the case was, you'd always think, like leading up to the investigation, is it going to be awesome or is it going to suck? And sometimes they were awesome, sometimes they sucked, but sometimes they'd surprise you, so. And that's what today's video is about. 5 paranormal investigations I thought would suck but didn't. Counting down and starting with number 5 on my list is actually a battlefield, and I don't know if I should tell you specific locations because I don't want anybody to go to some of these places, and like maybe you're not even allowed to ghost hunt. Some of them I know that you're not allowed to ghost hunt in anymore. So we'll just say that this was a battlefield somewhere in southeastern Kentucky. And hopefully that's not too specific, but I think Kentucky has a lot of those, so I was not excited in the slightest the first time that I went with my team to investigate on this battlefield. First of all, I don't like nature. I don't like dirt. I don't like moist grass after dark. I don't like bugs. I just don't like being outdoors, especially with my electronic equipment, and I just thought it was like a terrible idea, and I had no idea why anybody would want to go there and investigate because it's just a field. I don't like outdoor investigations, and I think outdoor investigations cause a lot of anomalies in your evidence, and it just makes it harder to know if you caught anything. There's just too many variables, but my team at the time was like,
no, it's a great place. You'll see what we're talking about when we get there.
Now, some of you, if you've been around for a long time and you used to come to the live streams, you've probably heard me talk about this before. And maybe even this particular story, but whatever, I'm going to tell you again. I don't remember exactly what time of the year it was, but I think maybe it was in the spring or early summer. Whenever it was pretty decent out at night, but it was still kind of cool. So it was like jeans and jacket weather. And I remember there being like a lot of humidity and dew and moistness, and I was really not looking forward to that because I didn't want my camera to get damp. And but anyway, it was an investigation, and we were kind of having like a little dry patch, so we didn't have any clients or anything. On the way there, I stopped and got like some new batteries and just, some random stuff like that. And I also had charged batteries because we used rechargeables, which, the logical thing to do. And even though I wasn't too excited about this investigation, I was ready to go, got there on time, We parked in this upper parking lot place and we walked into this field. I wasn't familiar with this place, so I had no idea that it was actually a really, really popular place for ghost hunters. And when they told me about, like a lot of people come here and investigate pretty frequently, I was like, why? Why would anybody want to come out here? Like, this is gross. I want to go home. I was just really been out of shape about it because outdoor investigations, terrible, terrible. So we have our equipment, we split up into our little groups, we kind of go in different directions. First crack off the bat, every battery that I had purchased on the way and pretty much all of them that I had charged before I left the house went completely dead. They just all drained immediately. Usually when that happened, I kind of knew that it was going to be a wild time, It seemed like any time it would happen, we would end up having a lot of paranormal activity, lots of results, lots of good EVP sessions and things like that. So my batteries were pretty much all dead. So that means I had like nothing but my camera, which had a specialty battery. It didn't take like AA's or anything like that. And those batteries seem to be a little harder for paranormal creatures to suck the juice out of. I don't know why or how that works, but I made a video a few years ago and I'll link it somewhere. You should go check it out. This one particular investigation we did, we had a camera that was plugged in and, you know, had the charger pack on it and was charging while it was running. It went dead while it was plugged into the wall. And not because the battery was bad, but because the activity was so crazy that it was just destroying batteries left and right. That was a pretty crazy night. The founder of the team got shoved down the stairs by some type of paranormal activity. Anyway, back to the story. So at this point in the night, I'm straight up not having a good time. Things are going wrong. It's getting frustrating. It was kind of cool out, like I said, so it was cold and damp and irritable and afraid of bugs and also slugs. Because you never know what's creeping around in the grass after dark. And then everything kind of gets pretty calm for a while. And I don't remember exactly everything that happened on this particular night. I wish I had written this down in my journal, my field journal, but unfortunately this is one of them that I didn't record. And that sucks because there could have been some cool things happen that I don't remember, like some small details. But what I do remember was the craziest thing that happened that night, which was at one point I was just kind of traversing the field aimlessly and I walked into like a puff of smoke. I didn't see smoke, but I smelled it and it was overwhelming, and it was like pipe tobacco smoke. And when I say overwhelming, I mean it was really, really overwhelming. It was just like so strong that I was afraid I could smell it on my clothes later. And you know, obviously when you're on an investigation, you're not going to be smoking anything while you're investigating, so it's not like any of us had a tobacco pipe, trust me. This was just the strongest, most realistic smell, and it was just like a cloud of it. And I say that not because I saw the cloud, but because there was kind of like a clearly defined perimeter of this odor. And a couple of other people that were with me in this little subgroup smelled it as well. We turned around and we tried to find it again because we're like walking and smelling it, and then, you know, we get to where we don't smell it and then we turn back and we're walking and we're like, where did it go? And it was just totally, completely gone. So that was pretty insane, and I am up for interpretation for this particular experience because it's one of the few times that I've had like a phantom odor paranormal experience, because I haven't had too many of those. I've had a handful that were kind of strange and maybe paranormal. This probably was like the top one. So yeah, I guess take it as you will, but it was definitely there, definitely very strong. I don't think that several people at once could have collectively hallucinated this, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's some science behind that. I have no idea. Didn't expect much from the battlefield. Got a pleasant surprise. Number 4 on the list is kind of a weird story, kind of a weird experience altogether. Don't know if I would call it an official ghost hunt. It was kind of like an impromptu, someone calls and says,
there's some weird activity in my house and it's like really at a peak right now. Could you come check it out?
You know, kind of like I'm the neighborhood bug exterminator or something like that. So I did. That's basically what happened. And I went and I just took like a camera and a voice recorder. This was a neighbor that lived close by. I got to this person's house. I flip on my little recorder. I've got my camera just in case, you know, something might pop up and I could catch a picture or some video or something like that. So I took my voice recorder, I laid it on the dresser in the master bedroom, and I just started walking around asking some questions to see if I could get anything. I was in there by myself. I think the only other person there was on the other side of the house. It was a decent sized house, so they weren't close. at any point during this. It definitely felt tense, but so I maybe was just expecting there to be activity. I do like maybe 30 minutes, something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, nothing's happening. I guess I'm gonna head home. And I go home and I think, well, for shiggles, I'm gonna go ahead and just listen to this recorder. I put on my earphones and I'm just kind of going about my business listening to the audio that I captured. While I'm asking questions, I actually got a voice that I didn't hear at the time. It was a female voice and it was very like malicious and angry sounding, and it said the word bitch. Oh God. No kidding, I have goosebumps all over right now. So yeah, if you count that as an investigation, that's definitely number 4 on the list. Number 3 was an investigation at a residential location in West Virginia. And this was toward the very, very tail end of my investigating days. I quit shortly thereafter. This place I had no expectations of. I had no idea really what the backstory was. If I remember correctly, I think it was like a last minute thing that I even went. You never know when you do a residential investigation. Those seem to be the ones that more often than not can go south pretty quick. We get there, the lady that owns the house is super nice. She had an adorable elderly cat who I instantly made best friends with. And she had like a really big house with lots of creepy dark nooks and crannies and corners. We had a few things happen. There were some weird sounds here and there. A couple of times it turned out to be the cat, and I could see the cat through my night vision camera. We'd hear something, I would just like aim the camera and try to find the cat in the dark because a lot of the noises were coming from the cat, but not all of them. Since I was paying attention to this, it kind of helped later on when we reviewed evidence, and we did find some weird stuff in our recordings because, you know, I had like correlating video to match up with it to prove that it wasn't the cat. Because one of the strangest things that happened was toward the end of the night we did an EVP session, and we kind of did like a little experiment with a ball where we would try to roll a ball and see if anything could roll it back. In the audio, it was super weird because it sounded like while we were doing that, like there was something hitting the floor really close to the recorder. Again, you know, since we had audio and video that we could kind of match off of each other, we were able to see that there was no logical explanation for these sounds. And it, to me, kind of sounded like coins hitting the floor. And it went on for like the longest time. It was really strange. We never did figure out what was making the sound because we were all in one room together. And the cat was asleep in its little cat bed, so pretty weird. But that was a good experience though, because I got to meet a cool cat, and I love meeting cats more than anything, and it turned out to be a good night even though I didn't know what to expect. Number 2 on the list is a place that I've talked about quite a few times. You guys have even seen some footage from this investigation. I'm not sure where it is on my channel or what it's called, but I'm pretty sure I've got like some night vision footage from one of these investigations. This was an ongoing investigation, and it was again one of those kind of things that we did when we hit dry patches where not too many people were coming to us with cases, and you know, we didn't really have anything to do, but we wanted to get together and ghost hunt anyway. So we would go to the apartment of one of our team members. This particular team member was like a super cool guy. He was really, really good with paranormal stuff. He was really serious about it. He was not somebody who, like one of our other members, who was like a big goofball who didn't take it seriously. I learned a lot from him because that was the first team I ever investigated with. And his apartment was most definitely haunted. We did have some of the craziest EVP sessions there. I know a lot of people are conflicted about K2 meters, but I always found K2 meters to be not that bad or gimmicky of a device because, you know, it does a very simple thing. It picks up EMFs, and you can prove that to yourself by just taking one of these little gadgets and like sticking it to your refrigerator. And so we used one of those. I think we had, what else did we had some other kind of, like, maybe, was it like a mail meter? I don't remember. There were some other gadgets that I didn't own any of these. Like the K2 meter I had, but the rest of them I didn't. But the team had a lot of equipment. So we would sometimes just put like a whole row of gadgets side by side and like point one of the cameras at these gadgets and have it filming the entire time, so that it would, like, one dedicated feed basically would catch any activity on any of these devices. And when we would do EVP sessions, these little boxes would just go insane. It always coincided with like the EVPs that we would be getting. All night long we would just harass this ghost that lived there, and it would harass us right back. And I remember one time during one of the nights we investigated there, because there were so many. During this one particular investigation, I was sitting in a recliner, and all of a sudden it was like somebody turned a heater toward me. And it wasn't like a vent in the ceiling or anything like that. All of this heat just kind of like is all over me, and I was like, oh my god, it's really hot in here. Did anybody else notice it got really super hot in here? And I think I even have a recording of this, and it may be on the channel somewhere. Don't quote me on that because I may be wrong. But so they pointed like a thermometer at me, you know, like the laser digital ones, and there was like this huge temperature difference in me and the chair beside of me and, like, you know, everything around me. And that was really weird. There were several times where we would just get like such a steady conversation by way of the meters, by having it blink so many times for yes and so many times for no, and we would just all take turns just for like hours asking questions, and we would get pretty solid answers. That's one of those surprise investigations where I didn't really think anything would happen before we went the first time, and then after that it would kind of surprise me every time because the activity was so out of control and crazy. The number one place that we did a paranormal investigation that I thought would suck but didn't was actually at a pizza restaurant called Mr. Getty's. Maybe you've heard of Mr. Getty's. If you haven't, it's kind of just like, it's just like a pizza buffet. But the one near my hometown apparently had kind of a reputation for being haunted, like really, really haunted. If you got a Mr. Getty's, I doubt yours is as cool as this one. I'm pretty sure that the building was like a bar or a saloon. No, really, I think it was like a cat house or something. It had some sort of weird sordid history. It's actually like a really weird building, and there's an upstairs to this building that you would never know is there. Like, it doesn't look like this building could have an upstairs, but there's like a full apartment, living quarters above it. And we investigated up there as well, and it was really cool because there was like a super old movie projector up in this old apartment above Mr. Getty. So, but that's a side note. But anyway, we had a lot of activity that night. We got a lot of weird readings and stuff like that, and we weren't sure if we were going to get much of anything, but we ended up getting quite a few really strange things. Okay, but let me set the scene, because this was in the middle of winter and there was a really bad ice storm. It was totally dead out. And this is a small town, so like once the rooster crows, everybody's gone anyway. Like, it's a ghost town. Not really, but not a lot of people in a small place like this, so it's, you know, not uncommon for traffic to die down at this time of the night. Plus, with the ice storm that had occurred over the last couple of days, it was pretty treacherous outside, so nobody was really traveling. So there wasn't anybody out on the road. There wasn't anybody out around the building. And the reason I'm telling you this is because some of the EVPs we captured were really freaky. And we theorized at one point, like, is this a person outside of the building? Or like, what's going on? But I think if you knew this town, it's a quiet town. Like, stuff doesn't really happen there. Nothing exciting ever happens there. So the fact that one of the EVPs that we got, which was perfectly clear, just like a beautiful solid EVP, was a series of blood-curdling screams. It was a woman screaming. That came from one of the recorders that we put in the storage room, or like a back room where they kept extra stuff for the restaurant. But that wasn't even the craziest thing that happened. This was also my very first experience with a ghost box. And if you don't know what a ghost box is, it's basically a modified AM/FM radio, and it's the modification forces it to scan through all of the radio stations like really, really fast. I'm not sure if it's like 1 second per channel or less than 1 second per channel, but it just scans continuously, and it essentially creates white noise. And the belief is that through this white noise, you're able to create some type of ambience to capture ghostly voices. And of all the gadgetry that exists for the paranormal community, the ghost box is one of the best pieces, I think, because it's the most reliable, in my opinion. So here's the thing. You would probably think, like, if you don't know anything about it, you would probably think, well, it's a radio. You're just getting snippets of people's voices off of various radio channels. Well, that's not actually the case, because it's scanning too fast, first of all. But second of all, one thing that we would always do is get whatever paranormal entity we were having a conversation with to say dirty words. And once you get like pretty clear foul language, then you kind of know that you made a connection to the other side, because obviously the FCC would never allow that type of language on any radio station. Pretty solid way of making sure you know who you're talking to.
Can anyone hear me right now? If you can hear me, can you clearly say yes? Yes or yes? Why don't you cuss me so these fine people here can see that you're with us?
So this was my first experience with a real ghost box, and it was insane. It actually kind of sounded almost like a female voice, but kind of not really at the same time. It said something like two Sarahs, and one of the people who worked at Mr. Getty's had actually stayed for the investigation. Actually, I think a couple did, but I think one of them left. But so there was one girl who was actually an employee there, and her name was Sarah and my name was Sarah, and the ghost box was like, it kept saying two Sarahs. So a couple of the guys on the team came and got me and her and were like, hey, come in the game room and listen to this. This is crazy. So we go into the game room, and I don't remember the exact wording, unfortunately, but the ghost box basically made it clear that it wanted everybody else to leave the room except for the two Sarahs. And I was like, how about no? Me and the other girl, we stayed there and we talked to it. And the guys kind of like went outside and listened from the doorway. Oh God, I've got goosebumps. Oh my God. It kind of told us a story in choppy, short sentences. It was just like, it was one of the craziest experiences of my paranormal career, I guess you could say. After that, I was a firm believer in the power of the ghost box and its capabilities, and I think people don't give it the credit that it deserves. I think it's something simple that you can make yourself. I know that someone online sells them, but I think making one yourself is probably like a better way to go about it. And this one of the guys on the team had actually made this one out of just like a plain little camping type radio from Radio Shack, I think. The sad part about this whole thing is like, not even just like a few months after this investigation, all of my evidence disappeared off of my computer hard drive. And I used to make fun of people when they would say like, oh, I had, this great evidence, and it just magically disappeared off my computer. And I would always think like, yeah, whatever, likely story. But it happened to me. And it also happened pretty much to everybody who had evidence from that investigation. I've never figured that out. One of the weirdest, most awful things that's ever happened to me in terms of like, you know, ghost hunting, because that was some of the best evidence that I ever captured. I think the only thing I have left from that investigation, I have some pictures that were on my memory card for my camera. Definitely one of the best investigations I ever went on. That was a crazy night. Okay guys, that was it. That was my 5 investigations that I thought would suck, and then they didn't. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any similar experiences, feel free to let me know about it in the comment section. I always like hearing your guys' stories, so definitely share those with me if you have any that you want to post. Be on the lookout for part 2, my top 5 worst paranormal investigations, so that one's definitely going to be a lot of fun. So check it out. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe and stick around for more spooky stuff. And I think I'm supposed to tell you to click the bell. Just click it, you know, like it's free. You don't have to pay anything to click the bell or the subscribe or a like or dislike. Comments will cost you $1. Payable to my PayPal account, and I take all major credit cards. Okay, alright, for real though. Until next time guys, don't get eaten by Dogman and don't get abducted by aliens unless you want to, and I'll see you later.